Hello guys, how are you? Well, welcome to another community call of Kleros. This is December 6th, and let me start by saying that we had a super cool thing happening yesterday. So there was speaking of conferences, Mars. There is now a conference going on in Geneva. It's from the United Nations Conference on Trade and Law, and they presented yesterday the paper that they wrote about consumer disputes in the future of technology and resolving consumer claims. And it was super cool that they wrote in that paper about Kleros, as we already mentioned a few weeks ago. And yesterday they again insisted on Kleros. They made it's recorded, so I encourage you to take a look at the video, because they make a presentation about the technologies that are affecting the future of consumer claims. And so basically they mentioned two key trends. One of them is AI. All things about chatbots, automating decisions and stuff like that. And the other one, which is the, let's say, crowdsourced version, is they use the case study of Kleros, and super interesting how they see it and how they encourage people to use Kleros to have better, more efficient, more fair consumer claims processing in different governments. So the target audience of this conference and of that report is basically governments, agencies that are in charge of consumer and competition law in government. So now all of these people know about Kleros, and might be at some point interested in putting some of this into action. So as you know, we already mentioned the last we have been mentioning this for a while now, but it became only official a week ago. We are conducting work with an exchange called Lemon, which is a very important exchange, crypto exchange for Latin America. They have, I think, over 2 million users. And they are starting to use Kleros as dispute resolution system for claims that exist between users and the company. So let's say you are a user and you have a claim against the company because, typical kind of credit card claims that you were charged for something you didn't buy or something like that. And you go to the customer service, and the customer service says that you are not right, so they're not going to reimburse you. Then they offer you a new instance of resolution that is an external instance that is done by Kleros, where you can have like an external body, neutral body, see the case, and then vote on who is right. And if Kleros votes in favor of the user, so the company abides by the Kleros decision and makes the reimbursement. And if the company rules in favor of, if Kleros rules in favor of the company, then the user still can go to small claims court or whatever he wants to go, because it doesn't take away any possibility for solving the claim away from the user. So this is something that we have been developing and working on for a long time. So since the very early days of the project, we wanted to implement this type of use case, because this brings this is what makes the most of a difference to everyday people, like people who have a high volume or small claims of all kind of consumer problems. In this case, it's an exchange, but there are others like more about small insurance situations, about who has to pay for the repair of a car that was damaged in some accident. It's a small repair, or the user against the utilities company and stuff like that, which are super important, and that they can be resolved in a way more efficient way by a system like Kleros. So that's super cool. The work we have been doing with Lemon on this is mostly as Kleros as a purely private, let's say, distributed resolution system. But then eventually in the presentation that was done by UNCTAD, this is a different way to approach this problem. Instead of having the distributed resolution system embedded into the customer claims processing of the company, it's part of, let's say, the small claims area of a government. So this could make it way more efficient to resolve this type of claims that sometimes they are clogging the courts of lots of different countries. So it's super exciting news that is the result of very long time of trying to look for this type of use cases. So that's very nice thing that happened this week. I had already mentioned this a bunch of times, but now it's kind of official. It was published in Forbes, and so this is happening now. So it's super cool. Then we have this week a bunch of different case going on. I think we are maybe in one of the, I don't know if record case, but we have a bunch of cases going on right now. So that's also cool to see some of them in the curation, others from the Lemon courts. So we have that. Let me go now to William with his research update. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I have an article coming out soon on spellbound tokens based on a lot of research we've been doing recently. So I've been advertising that this article's coming for a while now. It's basically done, and it's just a matter of like whenever our graphic designer does all the images. So there are a lot of these like little formula images that I'm sure will cause her a lot of grief. So we'll see how long that takes.
Formulas, big formulas, I would say.
Yeah,
big complex formulas.
Some. While waiting for that, I'm sort of going back and thinking more about like panning out and thinking about sort of like the voting system incentive systems that like our modular structure in V2 will allow us to have, and like whether there's like more research to be done, to like take advantage of this modularity. So specifically like for V2, one of the like in the immediate release, we expect to have a voting incentive system, which is essentially equivalent to what we currently have in V1. But a little longer term, I imagine sort of like two voting incentive systems that I've identified as being like particularly relevant. One, which is sort of described in detail in the yellow paper, when you have non-binary cases that sort of just like really set up for having like complex non-binary disputes, and another where you have disputes that are where there's like an option that like wins with like a really high a priori frequency. Like on the humanity court cases, a really high percentage of the cases are ruled as to reject. This is the case with a lot of our curated lists. And then a lever that we've had in V1 to like incentivize people to take the effort to look at the case, even if they, even if like the strong a priori prior is that they're probably going to wind up voting rejected because most of the cases resolve that way, is to raise the deposits. But we have some thoughts on how you can have like a better voting system, basically by having different fees paid based on like what the outcome of the case is, so that you can do this more efficiently without having to like have super high deposits. But then there's the question of like, are there any other good voting incentive systems that like handle like other different kinds of use cases, and like other things we can take advantage of, and I'm sort of broadly thinking about that.
Yeah, so the use of soulbound tokens is going to be super interesting because it will enable Kleros to incorporate a number of features that are currently, they don't exist now, but that are required by potential partners, such as, let's say, that you want to use Kleros to solve disputes in your community, but you only want people from your community to be able to be drawn as a juror. So we get that like a lot. Like for example, if you to use a parallel to the real off-chain world, if you want to be drawn as a juror in the U.S. court system as a cases there, so you have to be U.S. citizen. So I mean, maybe in order to be drawn as a juror in cases happening in a court that is used by some specific community, you would have to be a citizen of that particular network state. If you want, we can call it that way. So that is one super interesting thing. Then another one is those SBTs could also represent a number of skills that jurors have. Sometimes people want that only are drawn people who have approved, some previous test certifying their skills in some particular thing that is relevant to the dispute. So that's also another use case. And also, I mean, then I guess the only limit is the imagination, because you could start then having a combination of SBTs. Like you want a jury that has certain composition of people based on some specificities of the case or the type of case that go into that court, and then you could look for a combination on different SBTs in order to participate in that court. So this is going to be super interesting. I mean, this is not going to be, of course, deployed in the near term, because there's lots of research that William is doing for this to work and for this not to be easy to attack and all that. So this adds lots of complexity. So as you know, the version 2 of Kleros is going to be modular, and different new modules can be added after the launch. So the first thing that will happen is launch a version that is feature parity with the V1, and then we will keep researching on those different types of modules that will address different use cases and different things that people ask, potential partners ask, and that current Kleros cannot really give. So that's going to be one of the main things that we are going to work on after Kleros V2. And of course, most of these consumer cases require some type of SBT implementation, right? So we have a more or less clear idea of what we need. Now it's about trying to implement this to make it work. I don't know, William, if you have anything else to add about SBTs and something like
that. Yeah, just like your sort of point about like a lot of research going into making this sort of like attack resistant, to try to have these like features from kind of the Web 2 world where there's like much more social identity, and how does that interact with the sort of Kleros attack resistant systems? And a point I really try to make in the blog article, which I hope you'll all read soon once the images are done, is that this can be done in a way that like really complements the attack resistance of the current system. Like you can put these like layers, this like social layer on top of the economic sort of attack resistance that like is present in V1, so that they should complement each other if you implement it correctly. In order to break the system, you should both have to like break the social layers of the system and break the economics, so that they like not choosing one kind of attack resistance or the other, but like two like layers of defense.
There you go. So if you want to know more, read the article. So that's why William wrote it. So because if he was to explain everything here, why write the article, right? So that is something cool going on. Then other things, I'm going to make a few presentations in the next few days. For example, next week we have a workshop that we're going to do in the ArtTech community, where I'm going to present Kleros 2.0. I mean, basically all of these improvements that we are planning and that William is working on and we are going to implement. I'm going to present this into that community. This is, I guess, one of the most important communities of innovation in arbitration. So I'm going to be there, I think, on the 15th of December, and the day before, I'm going to be speaking at another panel that we are co-hosting with the World Intellectual Property Organization about Kleros, well, not just Kleros, I mean, it's about dispute resolution in the context of esports. So, as you know, esports is growing activity, and there are tournaments, team, business, sponsors, everything that you have in professional sports, you have in professional esports. So, and this, of course, creates a number of disputes because of some of them are IP disputes because a team is using a logo that this was stolen. So this kind of already existing disputes, and then also new types of disputes about cheating, and there is not a very clear way to solve this. The leagues sometimes do it themselves. So, but Kleros could, I think, help here. I mean, this is one of the use cases that we have been, I guess, aware of since the early days of the project, but only now this seems to be, coming to fruition, especially after Kleros 2.0, and especially also as esports also become a more important activity, and the problem is like more clear now than what it was some time ago. So this is going to be super cool as well. So that is about talks I'm giving and trying to develop this new types of use case. Then maybe Jim, you want to add something? I don't know.
Yeah, just like to mention that there's the Gnosis chain cases are still going on. There are lots of appeals. I believe we have Cleric here that is one of probably the person there's generating these challenges, and also he made a DAO that uses our snapshot module to crowdfund funds for the appeals. So just the one thing that I would like to share about that is that these cases on the general court, they require 2 transactions, and one is for commit the vote and the other one is to reveal. So it's very important not to forget to execute any of these transactions. And of course, for the other token holders, I would recommend checking your stake on the different courts. Maybe it will be interesting to add more stake on this court.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Yeah. Someone want to say something?
Yes, it's Alex. I was just wanting to add on top of that. Basically, all this activity on Gnosis chain was with all this appeal. It was noticed as well because it appeared in Gnosis newsletter, weekly newsletter. So you can have a look there as well, and you will see basically a specific mention of Kleros and the dispute resolution system. So yes, the interesting point with the Cleric DAO is the fact that it's using our snapshot module, and it's allowing to do a fully trustless fundraising. So that's very interesting. And on the DAO space, more generally, we have also witnessed another DAO, a DeFi DAO that is using basically our module, but a custom version of our module. So we are checking some specific things internally, but it's definitely good to see that people are integrating Kleros basically as an arbitrator. It's definitely a good and strong signal. But yes, we just want to emphasize that it's really important that when you do any integration, that you come to us basically, because we are here to help you to integrate, basically, to do some testing sometimes, and to be sure everything is on track. So that's it for the DAO part. And more generally, maybe I will mention there is currently the DAO Sember. So if you are interested in DAOs, there are some online events and talks about DAOs basically, and all different topics that you can find interesting.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, and also it's really cool to see people starting to use different tools that we have been building along the days, and the years we have been working on Kleros, and also maybe mention another one. I mean, this is I cannot, because of privacy reasons, say who it affects, but there is we are starting to. We got someone reaching to us with a dispute in a software contract. Typical, Alice and Bob, contract for some, small software development for not a lot of money, and they had a Kleros clause for using Kleros, and arbitration clause for using Kleros as dispute resolution system for the case in case something went wrong, and something did go wrong, and so Kleros issued this arbitration clause, but since this was not done with an escrow, and there is not like a money deposit from where one party could take back their funds, so it's not very easy to implement. But so the point I wanted to make is that we are seeing like people just basically autonomously and trying to use Kleros for solving their claims. And I wonder how many contracts are in the world, like legal contracts that have Kleros and arbitration clause, where we don't even know, because if no dispute happens, we don't ever find out, and sometimes disputes happen, but they don't reach to us. In this case, we did notice because they reached to us to ask how to resolve it through Kleros. So that's a super cool thing that is going on. So we already are seeing Kleros as court of the internet, if you want. So
I have a quick question related to that. I can imagine a Kleros, something that looks like Kleros, but the end user doesn't need to know there is a blockchain on the back end. And this thought came to me very recently. We were discussing the adoption, how do you onboard new users? And one of the thoughts was, you are just making an app that is just so smooth, so good, so, user-friendly. And the user, they do not care whether it is a Kleros, Schmeros, whatever, blockchain on the back end. And I can imagine a Kleros-like system that is just without a token, with some, centralized backend. And if it exists, it can operate in some, niche, in some country, in Thailand, Malaysia, like we are not even aware of it. What do you think about it?
Well, that's basically exactly how the Lemon integration I mentioned works. So in this case, users who are transacting, they don't interact with Kleros at all. They just interact with that traditional, Web 2 front end. And then if there is a dispute, this is sent to Kleros. It's like off-chain, and then it is loaded on Kleros through a tool we have. It's called Dispute Resolver. Then Kleros, the part that is on-chain here is the part where jurors are selected, where evidence is uploaded into Kleros, and the way in which votes are counted. So to give everyone the certainty that the process is going to be done without like tamper or anything like weird stuff. And then this is enforced off-chain. So in this case, like Kleros is like justice as a service system, and the parties who are in this dispute, they don't have to even know about Kleros. Sometimes, I mean, it's cool that they know about Kleros because this is a seal of trust, if you want. Okay, if Kleros is involved, so I can trust that the system is true, blockchain system, that it's not like it's not just what they do in internal dispute resolution systems in Web2 companies, where you don't really know how the decision is made. Here it's like an hybrid. If you are into this, I can recommend to you a talk I gave at ETHCC in 2019, where I basically explained how this should work. You have apps that are like e-commerce, insurance, whatever, exchange, centralized exchange, all that. Then those apps interact with a company, and that company, what it does is it takes the off-chain elements and uploads this into Kleros, and then informs the decision that was done to the client or the customer, is the app. I mean, I'm sure Jean can share this with you, but this is exactly what you are saying.
Yeah, I get it. Sure, I understand. This lemon is a hybrid approach because ultimately there is a Kleros proper on the back end. I was thinking about something even more radical when there is a Kleros-like system that is just using the, I would say, game theory and Schelling point and all these crypto economics, but just using Firebase, Google Cloud Platform. I can imagine this as a possibility, and who knows, maybe someone on the call will be inspired by building such a Kleros using traditional databases, because ultimately the customers and the end users, they just want to get the job done. They want to have love, family, sexy girlfriend or boyfriend, and not necessarily the 12 words backup phrase and the gas fees.
I mean, so that's a good point. Let me add something more. I think that, and if you see that talk I gave in 2019, there is, I mean, between something that is fully centralized, existing traditional systems that like you have in eBay or Amazon, to fully on-chain systems like Kleros. In the middle, there is a gradual, increase from centralization to decentralization. So in that scale, you could have different combinations. And if in the particular use case that you are targeting, the users don't mind that it is more centralized, then that's probably okay. I mean, in the end, what you want to do is solve someone's problem. And so I think that model you propose, I think this could work for some types of use cases, and for other, no. But so this world of legal innovation is definitely growing, and we will have probably different approaches. Some of them will also incorporate AI, for example, into all of these processes. But yeah, I mean, I think that the main important thing here is to start by the problem you want to solve. That's something I learned, by the way, at Singularity Mars. Start by the problem you want to solve, and then see what is the right technology for you to implement into that solution. So I'm sure that what you mentioned,
if I may, the problem that I want to solve at the very, very down, what is your why? Digging deeper. I just want humanity to survive. I want us as a humans on planet Earth to live, more than the next couple of years, because the climate change, global coordination, global governance, and Kleros is actually solving one of these deep foundational problems. How do you resolve disputes? How do you establish what is real? So this is a bit philosophical, solving problems at the very deep level.
Definitely. I mean, I wonder what William thinks about this.
So on your my sort of thought in on your previous point of what could one have some super centralized version of Kleros use the same game theory but in a completely centralized manner. My response to that is that blockchains are all about trust, removing centralized actors, and everything you can do on a blockchain. If you have some total confidence in some trusted third party, you can do much more efficiently on a centralized system. But dispute resolution, because people have different points of view, they're arguing about different perceptions of some dispute. I think is a situation where it's particularly important to have credibly neutral actors that you have as little trust as possible, and sort of people, and as much sort of can put as much on protocols and institutions. I also want humanity to survive. So on your second point.
I'm not sure about that, I don't know if you sorry. No, I'm joking. I do want us to survive. So I guess it's a combination of things. And this makes me think, I mean, well, one of the things, when they do this type of world surveys about culture and beliefs from people from different parts of the world, so they measure how much trust there is between, the society and the government, for example. I think it's not a surprise that Argentinians are very much into blockchain, because it's a country that historically had very low trust in institutions because of lots of different problems that, I mean, it would be too long to explain now. But if you want to learn about this, there is a very good book. I think it's only in Spanish, but it's called A Country Besides the Law. So in Spanish, Un País al Margen de la Ley, by a philosopher called Carlos Nino. And the guy, what he says is that in the Argentinian setting, society, what happens is that people are in a game theory situation where they always expect the other party to be opportunistic, right? So if you think that the other party is going to be opportunist in the behavior, what is the rational thing to do, William? I mean, you become opportunist first. Otherwise, you are, an easy prey for hunters. So, and this creates a situation where there is very low trust in government. So this creates a low-level equilibrium where everybody basically loses. Everybody would be better off if we had, the first reaction would be to trust the other, but the selling point is not to trust here. So, and this creates a bad society. And on the contrary, if you see other societies like Norway, there is a very high level of trust in government and in general in institutions. I mean, people think that if they go to a court in Norway, the judge is not going to be corrupt, he's not going to try to get a bribe or stuff like that. So in general, I would say this creates a setting where, I mean, this type of proposals of an app relying more on trust could basically work. So this is what all of this long introduction is just to say that different communities, and we can speak of online communities, can have different parameters in what people think others would do. And based on that, they will guide their own behavior. And based on that, you will have different interactions. So a bit of the things we are researching with William is about behavioral game theory. And it's about how culture affects perceptions of trust, perceptions of risk, perceptions of one very important thing, how much people want to punish those who they see as free riders. So all of these things can, have impact in how a cryptoeconomic system works. So this is super early stage, and if you are interested in this is a discipline called behavioral cryptoeconomics. That, I mean, there must be at the point, I mean, maybe 1 or 2 papers about this. So, well, sorry about the rant, but
yeah,
I mean,
one thing here. I don't know if you already mentioned the call we had yesterday. Did you already mention this, Federico, in the call today?
I'm not sure it's very public. So let's only I mean, mention something.
The general idea.
Yeah, okay. You can mention it.
Yeah, just the general idea that is very.
No names and no nothing, just general level stuff.
No, yeah, no, but it's very related to what you were saying. Where, well, I'm just going to say the country here in Argentina, the conflicts are not very well resolved, and there was a guy that is related to the new government of Argentina, and well, what he was saying was that they want to implement a new system, and an alternative could be Kleros, where basically, when any citizen from Argentina has a problem or a conflict with something related to the Argentinian government, they could appeal and go go to or create this dispute in Kleros, and well, if they were right, they would receive a refund. That is basically the way that we are working with some integrations as Kleros. So, well, yeah, I wanted to mention this because I think it was related to what you were saying. And then, sorry, I came late to the call. I was working in some of the cases with Lemon, but I can say very quickly the BD updates. Is okay, Federico?
Yeah.
So, for BD updates, besides what I just mentioned about the call we had yesterday and well, what is related to Lemon, we have some of our guys of the BD team that are going to attend to the India blockchain event and ETH India, and we have been working with Ledger and Etherscan with our integrations. We have been making an update on our data with them. So yeah, that's where we have been mostly working this week.
Thank you, Marcos. Yeah, and about the discussion we had yesterday. So also sometimes people tend to see Kleros also. Oh, this is cool. This can solve everything. You know, we have a bad, Supreme Court in our country. Let's put Kleros. I mean, Kleros is still, to some degrees, very experimental, and it shouldn't be seen as a replacement of all the institutions that are surely not perfect at all, but that they have been working and people already know them. So Kleros is better to be thought about, for consumer claims, mostly for types of cases where, the amount at stake is not very large. Maybe in 20 years, Kleros could be a more important part of government systems. I don't know. Time will tell us, makes progress, and the system is tuned. The version that we have now and that we have tested for now is only the one that is fully based on economic incentives, everything you already know. Of course, the new version that we are working on will have a bunch of improvements, as we mentioned at the beginning of the call, soul-bound tokens. So this is a work in progress, and it will take for sure some time to fully understand what is the potential and what is the use cases where this could actually work, and including in which cases there could be a system like Kleros in the sense of what Mars is thinking. When we started working on this, and not just Kleros, basically decentralized justice as a field, there was nothing. We basically made everything from scratch, and nobody had really done any research about this, or let alone build this. So this is super new, and we have already learned a lot along the way, and we will learn for sure a lot in what's coming. Hopefully that answers your question. Maybe we could write a book about it. Just transcribe. Anything else to add, William?
No, I think that covers it.
Awesome. Well,
I have a couple of updates.
Yeah. Well,
sorry, just to mention that the V2 will be migrated to another testnet. In the coming days, we will announce that, and it will require a new token. So we'll stay tuned for that. And also, there's there's updates on the escrow. There's a new version of the escrow being worked on, or a revamp of the interface, and also the team is working on a better interface for Kleros Curate.
awesome. Well, I guess this is already too long of a call. So, well, thank you very much for coming, and well, see you on Telegram. Bye-bye, guys.
Fede. Like, look,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we are enjoying these discussions. This is a very important discussion. Like all this